glad to be here. Thank you for having me. It's really awesome to be back here. This church is very meaningful for me because this is a church that I served for a number of years. It's where we were married. Beautiful wife back there. So thank you for having me back. And hopefully you will learn as much as I did from this passage we're looking at today, which is 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. So I'll give you a couple moments to get there. And the question that comes out at me when I've gone through this is, what does this passage reveal to us about persecution? And it reveals basically three things. The nature and character of those that are persecuting. It reveals to us what we're being persecuted for, and also what our response should be in the light of that. And really, we'll go read it first. If we're there, I'm starting with verse 13. I'm reading out of the Holman Christian Standard. And who will harm you if you are passionate for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear or be disturbed, but set apart the Messiah as Lord in your hearts. And always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. However, do this with gentleness and respect, keeping your conscience clear, so that when you are accused, those who denounce your Christian life will be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring you to God, and after being put to death in the fleshly realm, but made alive in the spiritual realm. There are few things more challenging and frustrating in life when people challenge you and give you a hard time about what you believe. Because what you believe is the core of who you are. You know, when you wake up in the morning, that shapes who you interact with. It shapes how you interact with people. It shapes the things that you do as you progress through the day. It is your nature. In this world right now, you know, we have a lot of things coming at us. You know, there are Christians around the world that have it much worse off than we do. That obviously they're suffering in ways that we can't even imagine. We can talk about it, we can describe it. We don't know really what that looks like. For us here, though, we are getting hammered a bit. We're getting squashed by the world because things that we believe, things that are basic to what God has told us, you can go to jail for now or be completely ridiculed and blasted by the media. We see business owners in cities on the mainland that are getting crushed because they stand up for their convictions. Not because they're doing anything violent or not because they're saying something hateful and evil, but because they believe in one basic thing in the Bible, and people hate that. And they have no problem with crushing them for that. So whatever form that persecution takes, you know, it is there and it's real, and we do have to find a way to be able to deal with it. This letter from Peter, I think, is an appropriate source of information, appropriate source, a legitimate source, because Peter was persecuted. This is not a guy who lived a comfortable life. This is not a guy who had great riches from being a follower of Christ. This is a guy who suffered. And at the time that he penned this letter, he penned it to people that were suffering, people that were getting persecuted, but by this time he'd already seen fellow disciples and apostles executed. You know, this is about 30 years after Christ was killed as well. And all around him, you know, within a few short years, there's only one apostle left out of the 12. You know, and Peter himself and Paul are both going to be executed shortly after here in Rome. Peter knows what it's like to be persecuted, and he knows what it's like to see the others you love. Blood, his brother Andrew was one of the apostles. Spiritual, and his friends, people who grew up with him. And this letter comes to us not just from people that are persecuted, it comes to us in a time when there's no country on earth that claimed Christ as their own. It comes at a time when anyone who said, hey, you know what, Jesus is the Messiah, can be thrown in jail. And leaders were being done so. And worse, the people that really should have been on their side, the religious authorities, people who should have recognized the Messiah, were part of that persecution, were a part of that hardship. So really, if you really want to contextualize a good place to come from and a good piece of advice from somebody, Peter at this period in time, he's great for telling us what it really is to be able to face persecution and what it's really all about. We know really who's opposing us. We know it's Satan, and we know it's his lies, and we know it's lies of the self. Our selfishness, too. Things that make us feel good, things that make us feel comfortable. These are lies that we can tell ourselves without even knowing it sometimes. These are things that come at us. Friends that we say, oh, they should be a believer. Why are they doing this? Why are they coming at me so hard about this basic thing about the truth? Because the lies of the self are so powerful as well. Looking at verse 13 again. And who will harm you if you are passionate for what is good? This is not a question that asks you, oh, no one's going to do any harm to you. It's asking the basic question. Who will harm you if you're doing good? If someone is coming at you, if someone's persecuting, if someone's coming after your beliefs for what you believe is doing good, they're hurting you, this reveals them. It reveals their character, it reveals their condition. And it's very easy for us to use this as a way to paint or draw a line in the sand and separate them from us. Make them as our enemies and say, oh, well, they don't believe in Christ. So you know what? This is the line. They don't believe that. Those guys are the bad guys. That's not what should be the natural response, even though it is. I mean, I've often felt that way. Not too long ago, I'd read some books from Richard Dawkins just to kind of see how his mind thought goes. And Richard Dawkins is a very outspoken atheist. He absolutely hates religion, and Christianity is one of his favorite whipping boys. It was very easy for me to sit there and come at him because the book, in a lot of ways, is very angry. But we have to remember when people are coming at us, when they are coming at us because of our stance for what is good, it's because they do not see what we see. They do not know what we already know. And that is tragic. More than the hurt they're going to cause us, more than the hurt that they want to cause the innocents around us, the real tragedy is there's a whole world of people who don't know what we know. And that is why they're reacting the way they are. What is good? And so there's two passages I think that are really good for helping us illustrate what is good. Micah 6:8, one of my favorite passages. He has told you, men, what is good, and what it is the Lord requires of you, only to act justly, to love faithfulness, and to walk humbly with your God. And then Matthew 22:37-40, he said to him, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important commandment. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets depend on these two commandments. What is good? That's good stuff, right? To walk humbly, to love God, and to love other people. These are not bad things. And we know it's good because we've accepted Jesus Christ. We have accepted his sacrifice for us. We've accepted what God has done through him. So for us, that is good. That is what we know. You and I know these things, and that's what we seek. Loving a God who created all things seems natural to me. It doesn't seem foreign and weird. But to somebody who never grew up with that, to somebody who never made that decision, it's going to seem like a bunch of weird hocus pocus. I've seen the light and you've seen the light. And in this world, there's so much darkness that people are getting blinded to. And with the power of the media now, it's everywhere. I mean, it is amazingly powerful to see how much stuff can get dumped out there, how much darkness can be ladled upon us, how much people can be separated from the things that we know. It is incredibly easy. It's harder to speak through that sometimes. But the beautiful thing is the truth that we've been given, this light, we know how powerful it can be. And there's an example coming up. I'll share some of that. The world will lie to us and lie to people that there's a better way than what we offer. A life of love and truth and service. The world tells people that they can become rock gods. It tells them that there's a million ways to salvation. It tells them they can be whatever they want. If you want to be a 10-year-old girl. It is strange and unnerving how hard it is to get through all that. Who will harm you if you're passionate for what is good? Those who just don't know. Those who cannot see that. People who are not our arch nemesis. People who just don't know Jesus Christ. People who need to know what we've been given. Persecution reveals to us the character and the condition of the people that are coming at us, the persecution. Verse 14, the first half, but even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. God says we're blessed. That's kind of hard to swallow. When you're at school and all your classmates think you're an idiot because you believe something that they think is superstition, fairy tale, it's kind of hard to swallow to say, well, I'm blessed, because you feel alone. It's hard to feel that way when your entire village has been completely taken over by people who want to destroy you. It's really hard to believe that. But when the creator of the universe, the highest authority of all, comes down and tells us we are blessed, you kind of have to believe that, and he kind of knows what he's talking about. And if you think about why it is that we're really truly blessed, truth, just in and of itself, is powerful. Who really wants to live for a lie? Because you're always going to know in the back of your head, this is not it. For me, one of the most compelling evidences, one of those things that kind of really brought me to Christ, and one of those things I always have had, is the story of the apostles and their lives after Jesus. That's okay. Maybe not. If it was a lie that they were protecting, would they have gone through so much trouble to live these lives? I mean, you have 12 people who sat there and saw Jesus and all the things he defended them. They all defended him and everything he did. They told everybody about what he did, even to the point they were all killed. And not just, poisoned or, in their sleep. These are people that they knew exactly what was happening to them when they were imprisoned and beaten, and I won't go into gory details, but there was some truly horrific stuff that happened to these guys, and not one of these apostles recanted. That was powerful to me in coming to Christ, was if this was truly a lie, how can these guys who are witnesses, who would know if this is right or wrong, they would know. They still stood up for it regardless. Sorry, my stuff is so heavy. He's pushing us down. And I get a little fidgety with this. I'm fidgety anyway. ADD. But the truth is powerful, and it's a blessing that we have that trumps anything that's going to come our way. And, what's even bigger than that? Eternity. Eternity is huge. It's really, really big. We have that as well. And anything that we suffered here, when you're in that morning, that really, really stinks. The customers coming at you and they're really kind of mean, everybody's grumpy, you dropped your phone and your screen is cracked, and that morning you got out of the house late, and that day just stinks. And even somebody, scratched your car when you got to your break, you see the guy next to you must have just banged it. Just terrible morning. You think, oh, this is the worst day. That's all you can think about is that 3-hour segment of the day you had. What's 3 hours out of 90-something years? What's 90-something years out of more than I can count? It's hard in the moment. That's reality. We're temporally minded. We're very now-oriented. That's why we do some of the stupid things that we do, because we think about now and not later. But the power of what we've been given, the blessing of eternity, is so much greater than anything and everything this world's going to be able to throw at us, even if they throw it all at once. Because after that, it's like, well, you guys don't want me. I guess I'll have to spend eternity with God. Oh well. What else should we suffer for? And the thing is, the lie of the world too is that there is no pain. One of my favorite movies, Princess Bride, there's a quote in there, life is pain, princess. Anybody that tells you different is trying to sell you something. That's true. I mean, if someone's going to try and tell you there's no pain, they're lying. There is. We're going to go through tough times. Everybody does. I don't care how much money you got, how many houses you have, or how often you have to fly between Hawaii and, the Bahamas. Wherever you go, whatever you got, you're still going to suffer pain because the world is fallen. Because the world has sin, and we really can't do much about it, except for what God's given to us. And acknowledging the blessing, the fact that we are blessed in spite, in the face of all this pain and persecution, is important. But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Dovetailing into that, do not fear what they fear or be disturbed. We have a certainty that should inoculate us from a lot of the fears of the world. Many people wake up not knowing what's going to happen to me. A lot of people wake up not knowing, what do I need to do to get through it all? What do I need to make it past this life? Is there anything past this life? Or, oh my goodness, is a car wreck going to end everything for me today? That's a heavy burden. Maybe people don't think about it, but it does inform the way that they operate. For us, we don't need to fear what they fear because we already have a certainty. We have that eternity. And more than that, it really can't just focus on the eternity because we do have a now. We have something powerful that God has given us. He's given us a truth, and he's given us a love. We can wake up with the certainty that the guy who made everything, the guy who made everything good, the guy that made me, the guy that knows me, loves me. Loves me so much that he died for all the things I did against him. Let that settle in a bit. He died for the things that we did against him. Even if you think you've lived this really moral and virtuous life, unfortunately, we all do make mistakes. We do have those thoughts. We do have those actions that reflect those things sometimes. God forgave all that, and he died for that. And he loves you. Tomorrow you wake up, that's not going to change. That's as sure as anything else. What we should be disturbed about, what we should fear, is the salvation of those who aren't saved. Going back to those who are persecuting us, the people that are doing that, they don't understand us, that should be what we should fear. For them. Not for what they're going to do to us, but for what's going to happen to them if they never know, if they never see what we do. That should be the powerful motivator for us as we move forward. Verse 15, but set apart the Messiah as Lord in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason that the hope is in you. You know, we need to be ready to share. That's what we're called to do. You know, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do in the church. You are asked to share that. How can you not share the most important thing that ever happened to you? People share all the time. Oh, you know what? Today I had this awful day. This customer was terrible. You're willing to share that awful moment, but you're not willing to share the greatest thing that's ever going to happen to you. The greatest thing that's ever going to happen to that person. How can you not do that? Putting him first is so important. And I always come back to that, Matthew 22, 37 through 40. And it really is one of my favorite passages because you can pull everything, and Jesus says it, you can pull everything to this point. He said to him, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important commandment. The second is love, like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets depend on these two commandments. If we love God with all of ourselves, we understand who he is. If we love our neighbors ourselves, then we're going to share with them what we know. You know, you find a great recipe on Pinterest, you're going to pin it and share it. You know, you get eternal salvation, talk to somebody, tell them all about it. There's a video on YouTube. I recommend you go take a look at it. Penn Jillette. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a magician in Vegas. Very outspoken atheist. He does this video blog. He just talks about his thoughts and, you know, like I said, he says with his own mouth, I know there's no God. However, after one of his shows, a man came up to him and handed him a Bible. The gesture in the moment was so powerful for him that he blogged about this. Not to ridicule the man, even though he believed with all of his heart and mind that this man was wrong, that he was living in a lie. He was touched because this man proselytized him, because this man cared enough about what was going to happen to Penn Jillette. He saw the train coming at him, when he's gone, what's going to be facing him. The man cared enough about Penn to proselytize, to care, to share with him the truth that he thought was going to save him. The quote that Penn Jillette gives out was, how much do you have to hate somebody to not proselytize? How much do you have to hate somebody to believe that everlasting life is possible and not tell them that? This is coming from an avowed atheist. And he's not changed his stance at all. He's not changed a lick. But the moment was so powerful for him. You can see the emotion. If you get a chance, it's a 5-minute video. Penn Jillette gets a Bible, I think is what you'll come up on YouTube. And it really is a challenge for us. Penn Jillette. Penn and Teller. Penn is his first name, and then Gillette is Jillette. not like the razor. So verse 16 links into that quite nicely, because not just we should be giving defense, because the important part about the defense is that how we do it. However, do this with gentleness and respect, keeping your conscience clear, so that when you are accused, those who denounce your Christian life will be put to shame. We need to be doing this the right way. The message and the method should match. I mean, the message is love. So should we be coming at with shrill spears and, verbal attacks? That doesn't make sense. We should be coming at it with the same spirit and heart that the message really is, with gentleness and respect. The thing that touched Penn Jillette was the way the guy approached him too. The guy was kind, he was sincere, he treated him like a human being, and shared with him in a way that was moving to him. We have too many voices in this world that are powerful and shrill and angry. And we wonder why people run away from Jesus Christ. They run away from the church because sometimes it's us and the way that we come out there and we're just like, you are wrong, you are bad. Share the truth. Share the truth in a way that is respectful. Penn Jillette has maintained that he will never believe in God, and he believes that religion is evil. But the method came to him in a way that moved him. Imagine if we had a body of believers, not just one man, but a body of believers that really went out and shared with people to save them from the oncoming train named hell. What if we came at them with the way that was appropriate, with the way that was asked of us here, with gentleness and respect? And we're not being asked to do this here because it's going to make other people look bad. That's not really the way that passage should be read. The way it should be read is that we need to be keeping our conscience clear. That paper just wants to go away. That's okay. I can live without it. Keeping our conscience clear is so important. The way we present the message, that's all we have control over. That's all we can really do. And the way other people receive it, that's up to them. God's going to work in them, and God's putting people in their paths, and we just got to do, when we're called to step forward, do it. Let's do it right. Unfortunately, our world has got so many loud voices, it's hard to kind of call over them. But truth be told, if we do respond with the right love, with the gentleness and respect that we're supposed to, it's amazing how loud that really can be. Especially if all of us are pushing forward with that. It's amazing. This one unnamed man is all over the internet with thousands of views because of the way that he talked to Penn Jillette about eternity. Imagine if all of us did that. It's just exciting. Sorry, my throat's getting a little sore. Following up with that. For it's better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. Coming back to that point of what else is there that we should be suffering for? What else is there to be running into? It's better for us to suffer for that what is good, that which we know, than anything else. The reason why we can do that, the reason why that we are capable, and the reason why Jesus can ask this of us is verse 18. For Christ also suffered for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring you to God. And after being put to death in the fleshly realm, but made alive in the spiritual realm. He can ask us to do this because what he did was greater. I work as a manager at a retail store, and people aren't really going to do what I ask them to do if they can't see that I'm willing to do it or I have the ability to do it. It kind of rings hollow for some of them. If I ask them, I want you to clear this cart in an hour, but I haven't shown the ability to do that or willingness to do that, they're going to be like, that's okay. Christ asks us to share and with love and respect in the face of persecution, and he did it in the face of persecution much greater than you and I are ever going to face. We may think, wow, I have a really bad day. It's similar to what last of his. Be careful of that, because I can't imagine that there's anything more humiliating and awful than what happened to him. Because think about the fact that for years people knew this was coming. He knew it was coming his entire life. He knew this moment was coming. He knew what he had to do. And he did it. He wasn't guilty of anything. You know, sometimes when things happen to us, we can kind of go, well, you know, I kind of deserve that. That was enough way. I just said something stupid. Jesus had no thought of that. There's no point that he deserved what happened to him. And he did it for other people that many of them will never, ever know or care that he did that, which is sad. But you know, at least, you know, sometimes when you do something for someone else, you're like, well, they know I'll do it for them. Christ knows that some of these guys are never going to know that. How hard is that to do what he did? And to go through not just, you know, getting executed in public, but beaten and mocked by people who should know better. His friends who could have defended him, all like, oh, see ya, Peter took off, you know, and only afterwards they were, you know, convicted of how they felt and how they reacted to the whole thing. Christ did it all. Christ did so much more than we could ever do, and suffered more than we can ever do. And that's why he can ask us to stand up in the face of persecution. He can ask us to respond with love and gentleness. What does this passage reveal to us about persecution? It reveals about the character and nature of those who are persecuting us. It reveals the lostness, the blindness that they have towards what we know is the truth. It reveals what we are standing for, and the good. What is it that we're standing for? We're standing for good. Not just a good that we define, but a good that Christ defines for us. You know, and why can we be asked this? Why are we able to be asked this? Because Jesus Christ. How do we respond to persecution? We respond with humbleness and gentleness and respect that doesn't come from our standard. It comes from the standard from somebody who said it. Somebody who did it in such a way that we can never match that. But he can ask that of us. He can ask us for less because he did so much more. So today I challenge us as you go through your week and as you go through your months ahead, really, as you are being challenged in your faith, do not fear what people say about you. Don't fear about, you know, reputation you might lose, you know, the promotion you might not get because people disagree with how you feel about Jesus Christ and what he does. Don't fear that stuff. It's going to be a challenge for me, a challenge for anybody here. I can't imagine there's anybody on this earth, you know, no matter how spiritual and mature, that can't be a challenge for. But that is a challenge issue to us. Don't fear these things. Fear for the person that's given this to you. Fear for what's going to happen to them and the blindness that they're suffering from. Let's go ahead and bow our heads and just want to go to God with what he's given to us. Lord, we thank you for who you are. Thank you for a sacrifice that we can never truly understand. And thank you that you made it for us. Thank you for the love that you've shown to us in ways that, you know, we wish we could return to you and to others. We are facing a world that sometimes feels like it's just trying to squish us, trying to hurt us, and trying to hurt all the innocents around us. Help us to be able to respond appropriately. Help us to be able to have the strength and the courage to stand up. Not in anger, not in shrill voices, and not in antagonism or treating people like our arch nemesis, but treating them with the love that you would have us treat them. For us that we haven't quite received what you've given to us, if we haven't yet accepted you and who you are and what you really mean to us as Lord and Savior, I pray for those who are here that their hearts will turn closer to you and that they will have that desire to know more about what it is to truly be your child. Know what it is about the truth that you've given us. Help us to be able to share that with others, no matter what may come, no matter what the cost. Thank you for all the blessings you've given to us, Lord. In Jesus Christ's name.